Welcome to the Educational Leadership Podcast, the podcast where education meets innovation and leaders like you transform schools into thriving communities. Join us as we guide you through the ever-evolving world of educational leadership, from strategies that inspire your staff to insights that shape your students' futures. We're here to sharpen your skills, amplify your talents, and ignite your impact. So grab your coffee, a notebook, and most importantly, your growth mindset as we embark on a journey to redefine what it means to lead with purpose and passion. This isn't just a podcast, it's professional development. Let's build better schools together, one episode at a time. Now, here's your host, Principal JL. Today, we have a very exciting guest on the podcast, Mr. Jerry Mack. He has 33 years in education and 15 years as the principal of Shattern High School. Jerry is also the 2025 Nebraska State High School Principal of the Year. I first met Jerry over a phone call about a potential hire. Then we ran into each other at the Educational Advocacy Workshop this past summer, and our paths just keep crossing. In this episode, we talk about his journey in education, about bull elephants, and a little Husker football. Now let's get to the conversation with Mr. Jerry Mack. Welcome everybody back to another exciting episode of the Educational Leadership Podcast. Today in the house, I have Mr. Jerry Mack. Jerry, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me on. Yeah, we bump into each other over a phone call. I was trying to hire a teacher that you had a reference on, and that's how it all started. And it seems like our paths just keep crossing. So I'm excited to be on and share a little bit with your podcast. I really enjoyed listening to episodes.
Awesome, Jerry. Well, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to ask the same question I ask everybody on the podcast. Why did you become an educator? What inspired you to get into education?
Truth is, I remember probably being in sixth grade. I grew up in a small town in central Nebraska, a little town of 1,300, maybe 1,500 people. We were poor. We were the free lunch kid. We lived in city-owned housing, this little brick house on the edge of town. And my backyard neighbor had a house. That's where my buddy lived. And I just remember thinking as a young kid, like, man, he's got a nice house. They had a basketball hoop outside. They had concrete driveway to dribble the basketball on even, and I didn't have that. And his dad was a math teacher and a basketball coach. And my young, immature brain just said, well, apparently if you want good things, you need to be a math teacher and a basketball coach. And believe it or not, that was the start. And by the time I was 16, I was pretty convinced. I loved high school. I was involved in all activities, clubs, you name it. And so when you're poor, you hang out at school. You don't want to go home where you don't have much. And so you just stay at school. You get involved in activities. And that's what I did. And I just thought, I just enjoyed high school. And so probably like any good principal, I went into this field to be a coach, and from there, I found out I love teaching. I love being around kids. Things made sense to me. I did not have any plans to be a principal. I was asked to apply for this position. I was teaching in this school for 9 years and coaching, and that was a hard decision for me, spending a week trying to decide whether I really wanted to throw my name in the hat to be a principal. And what I found out is it's just such an important job and what we can do for kids. And the principal does create and can set the tone for the culture in a building, even though the teachers and the coaches are the ones that really do the work and build the relationships and get your philosophies across. And so I just found out I kind of rolled into it that way. And it's just been an important position. I am a school dad. to about 250 to 300 kids a year. And that's how I view the job, is I view it from a spot of love where I'm a dad to kids and trying to help those out. And I think it's a job where it allows me to, you know how it is as a principal, the star athlete doesn't probably need you. It's the kid, it's the quiet kid in the corner. It's the kid with maybe disabilities. It's the kid with behaviors. It's the kid with some childhood trauma that has struggles in a traditional setting. And I just found out that I think I have a love for that, just to be there for those kids and the importance of that role.
Yeah, that's great. You kind of remind me a little bit of myself growing up. I'll be honest, I did not grow up with a lot. I grew up poor, and I kind of had the same thought, but I also didn't want to be a teacher. I was the first thing, that was the furthest thing from my mind, was to even go into education. But I do remember growing up, I was free and reduced kid. We had what we had, but my mom did a great job of taking care of us. But I do remember, like, hey, that teacher's got a nice house. That teacher, so I remember those things, as well, growing up in Lexington, Nebraska, on the south side. We called it the barrio, the hood of Lexington back in the day. So, that's where all the poor kids lived. And if you lived on the north side, you had money, so that was the perception. But at the same time, you're kind of making me think that, and I kind of remember that as well. And so that's kind of really a unique perspective that you and I share.
Well, and you know this, but I feel like I've really stumbled into it more in just the last few years, that more and more other school administrators I run into have a similar background. And I think that's what makes us good principals, in the sense that we see kids who might be trying to hide. We see those kids that they need supports. We can take care of kids. And if we need to buy extra lunches, if we need to help purchase shoes, whatever those things are, that we notice those kids. And I think it's a quality that comes with it, that was earned through our own experiences. So yeah, I think that's part of what makes good principals.
Yeah, I mean, we see things that maybe other people can see because of what we came up through, and how we were raised, and kind of how we saw the world. But I didn't go into college thinking education was the way. It was coaching that got me in, just like it did for you. And that was my gateway to get me to where I'm at today. So, Jerry, let's talk about the classroom a little bit. I believe you were, what teacher were you? What kind of teacher? Math teacher?
So I was a math teacher.
Yeah,
I remember
that.
I just wanted to coach. Just like you said, I was going to coach. That was why I went into education. I was in college for about 3 years before I was like, God, maybe this teaching thing is going to be okay. But I remember coming out of high school thinking, well, I have to coach. I have to teach a subject. And so I was like, well, PE, I was like, I don't know. And I was like, history, no. And English, I'm not going to read papers at night. No. And I just remember thinking math. I was like, oh, I did okay in math in high school. And, 2 plus 2 is 4. It was 4 a couple hundred years ago. It's probably not going to change. And I bet I can do that. It might be easier to grade tests being a math teacher. And that's how I made up my mind to be able to go into math. And it ended up being something I really enjoyed. I actually I started a statistics class here in this school years ago that the principal gave me leeway on. Like, I found an interest in it, and then end up turning it into AP stats, which was the first time that Chadron High School has offered that. And it's still popular today. And so that's kind of how I started. But again, it all started with, I wanted to coach. That's all it was about. And then I discovered this love of teaching.
Yeah.
And the subject actually was okay with me. The subject appealed to me. And I really enjoyed it. And that was part of the reason why I had a hard time stepping out of that role to take an administrative role.
Yeah, no, I can kind of hear you on that. For me, I was a PE teacher first, but they're like, you need to get another endorsement. And I was like going, I don't know what to do. Kind of like what you were doing. I'm like, well, I did okay in math in high school. So I went into the math route, and I went like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? Because this is hard. Like being double endorsed, having a PE and a math. But guess what? My math degree got me every job as a teacher and as a coach. It wasn't PE that got me in the door. It was my math degree that got me into the door and got me the ability to be a head football coach out of the gate going in out of college. Now, I was an older college dude. I was 28 years old when I graduated college because I coached 6 years in football already by that time. But with that, what are some things you learned in the classroom as a math teacher that helped you with your leadership as a principal?
Well, a small thing that kind of has morphed is I like data. And so when we're going to make decisions, I have no problem making decisions based on data. And
Mm-hmm.
if that data involves crunching numbers and looking at test scores and looking at demographics, I'm very comfortable with that. And I think that has become one of my roles on the district administrative team is they know I'll crunch some data. They know I'll look at attendance, chronic attendance, and see whether it's up, down. And so that's been a benefit, clearly. Coaching is an extension of the classroom, and coaching is where you could really build some relationships. And, and I missed that. I got to be honest with you. That was the part that I really missed rolling into the principal job, but just that work ethic and working with data and I think has really helped. I have no problem whatsoever digging through spreadsheets or even building spreadsheets so that I can look at data a little deeper.
Yeah. You were the AP statistic teacher. Like that makes sense to me. Now, I didn't like teaching chemistry or not chemistry, but calculus or AP stats or any stat class. I was like, give me algebra 1 to algebra 2. Give me transitional. Give me those tough kids. Give me those kids that are struggling with math because I want to help them with math so they can learn. And those where I stuck. I stayed away from that. Now, with just like you, I like to do, I will look at the numbers. I'll make data driven decisions and I'll show my staff. Here's what the data says. Data don't care about your feelings. This is what it says, you know? Yeah. And that's just the way that is. And that's what I love about making decisions as a data with your team. And with that, you kind of hit on it, building relationships, being a coach. I will tell you the hardest thing for me to go from teaching into being a principal was stepping away from coaching.
Yes.
I like to maybe dig down into that because I coached 17 years of football. I loved it. I coached about 5 years of wrestling. I didn't coach wrestling right away, but I did coach it here and there at some districts. And I love that too. So much that I became an official for a while, for about 9 years. But then I coached track as well. And so that was like, not being able to do that with kids was probably one of the hardest decisions. But I learned as a principal that I can impact not just my athletic kids, but all kids in my building as a principal. And that's where I find my joy right now as a principal is how I can help those kids that are in those struggling modes, the kids that that you got to reach out that we can spot. So kind of talk about, that decision and stepping away from coaching and teaching and taking that first principal job. Just go through that.
Yeah. And I started teaching in the early 90s. In fact, I think it was the fall of 90. And so my first job, you signed on to do 3 sports and be a class sponsor and do whatever. So I was doing football, basketball, and track. And then, and that was in Nebraska. And I went to Wyoming for a few years and was football and basketball, was a head boys basketball for the high school. And when I moved back to Chadron and started here, it was primarily football. I was on the football staff and then I officiated. I thought it was a way to give back to a sport I love. So I officiated basketball for about 15 years. And that was a good experience too. But it's what you said, coaching is what I think is where I first discovered that there's certain kids that need you more. And, the other thing about coaching, and maybe I shouldn't say this out loud, but it created a pet peeve of the kid who had the talent and did nothing with it drove me insane.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I have the same.
You've got the kids that just work so hard, but they're not 6'6" on the basketball team like the other kid. And
yeah.
But anyways, coaching allowed you to really see the kids that needed what I know, like financial support, like help buying shoes, a ride.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, and you go pick them up. And so I think that was important. to bring that, and of course you can bring that then into your classroom, and you, I think coaching, you just needed to be there for those kids a little bit more because they did need rides to school. Or you get home, you know what it's like. You get home at midnight off of a bus ride. But we're in Chadron, so we travel 4 hours on a Friday just to go play football and back.
Yeah.
So you get home
And
late.
they've done that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and you got parents that aren't there to pick up a kid, and so you're in a position where you can serve others better, I think, and that clearly carried over into the principal role.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. Now let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, I know. Like, when I was at Twin River, I was a football coach there in Genoa for 5 years. I became the bus driver as well because we were getting short on bus drivers. And so I would drive the bus to our away games and drive them home. I almost lost a student one time.
Yep.
That's when I was up. We were up in playing West Holt. We won the game. So, we won the game. We beat West Holt. We're coming home. We stopped at McDonald's in O'Neill. And I counted all the kids. Like, okay, we got them all. I'm getting ready to go. And I'm heading out of O'Neill. And here's the kid's phone number popping up on my phone. I'm like, what the heck? Hey, coach, where are you guys at? I'm like, look, we're headed out of town. He's like, I'm back at McDonald's. I went to the bathroom and snuck out the back of the bus. I'm like, gosh dang, it's had to go around and find the kid. And we got him. We didn't lose him, but at the same time, it's like one of those things. It's like, so I remember like doing those trips and doing those, 4-hour one ways and coming home, being late and being there going, man, when are these parents are going to get these kids? Yeah, we've taken kids home just to get them, where they needed to be so they could be safe. So yeah, I remember those days as well. And I think that's what prepared us to do what we do. And so with that, you kind of saw like, hey, I'm stepping into the principalship. What I'm hearing you say is I want to make a bigger impact.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about how have you made an impact at Chadron High School as their principal?
And so I'm going to tell you about culture, and I'll lead with, I don't know that I'm the smartest critter out there, but I come from a Western background. The town I grew up in was Burwell, and that was before it had the Calamus Reservoir. And so it was a cowboy town. And my dad was a hired man, worked construction. Mom was a high school dropout. So that explains kind of the poor thing. Over my shoulder is still a cowboy hat. I wear one every day to work. That's just how the kids see me. And that's a shout out. I wear that for some of that family heritage and people who are special to me. But working with animals and horses and all these different things, it's just some things kind of make sense to me. And before I became a principal, the summer, I finally decided to throw my name in the hat, and they roped me in. I think I drew the short straw. Right away, they closed the applications, interviewed me, and it was done. And so I spent that summer, how you really think about what impact you want to have and what you want to do. And I ran across this story about bull elephants in a African game reserve where the juvenile herd of elephants, of these males, were killing other wildlife in the reserve. And to fast forward the story, the park rangers finally figured out that the absence of bull elephants was what was creating the problem. And so they found a way to transport in bull elephants, and the phenomenon of the violence in the park it stopped. The presence of bull elephants. Now, that story has been used for other sociological settings. It's far more than elephants, and it's far more than just boys or males. But at the time, remember, I was in the school, and I just felt like the majority of our behaviors, our discipline problems in the building were our young kids, which I think is pretty common for a lot of schools. And I felt like the seniors always had their hands kind of tied behind their backs. And it was just a feeling I had, like they could do more. They could be in a different position. So I spent that summer just intentionally thinking about how to create bull elephants in the school. And if I could have the bull elephants in the school and I could train them along my philosophies or along the philosophies of our school, that would be beneficial. And And so, and I wasn't sure how I was going to do it on my first year, but on that opening assembly, I talked to all the kids and I do my thing like principals do, and I dismiss everyone except for the freshmen and the seniors. And I'm telling you this, that I have done this every year. Monday morning, here in just a few days as we record this, I will do it for my 15th time, where I keep the freshmen and the seniors in the auditorium, and I talk in front of the freshmen. I just tell them, I'm here to work for seniors this year. The seniors have been in this building for 3 years. They know the expectations that it takes to be a Cardinal, a Shadron Cardinal, and on and on and on. And I just go off in front of these freshmen. And I even tell them in the line, the quote I use every year, and this will be the 15th year, is if there's misbehaviors in the hall, seniors will address it. And if a senior tells you to jump, you get in the air before you ask how high. And the seniors love that line. And so I've just always kept it in there just for the fun for the seniors. But then I dismiss the freshmen. I tell the freshmen, if you don't know where you're going, if you don't know a classroom, you ask a senior. You know, so I don't want them too scared of the seniors, but I think sometimes I think I'm too scary with it, and it's probably it's not the best thing to do. But the magic is after the freshmen leave. So after the freshmen leave, now it's just me and the seniors. And so I told the seniors, I have this teed up for you. Do not mess this up. If you leave this auditorium right now and then go get in the face of a freshman in the hall, they're going to think you're a jerk and they're never going to respect you. However, if you'd listen to me and just 3 times talk to the freshmen, especially the ones you think might be a discipline issue, just talk to them, check in with them, walk up and say, do you know the classroom you're going to? Number one, they're going to be scared of you after this little talk, and they'll probably tell you they don't need help. But you ask them again, do you know what classroom you're going to? I can help you. I can point it out to you. Or you ask them, do you know how the lunchroom works? And so I give them these prompts of things they can ask or they can say to check in. And I said, if you would just do that 3 times, then you will be the seniors that they will remember and talk about at their 10th year class reunion. Because, you know, you and I can probably recall being freshmen in a high school, and we remember the seniors that were in the building. And so I try to set that up, and I really go kind of a little bit deeper with it. But basically, I'm trying to train the seniors on how to leave this room and then go check in with freshmen. And then I do expect them to address behaviors, and I have to teach them what they can and can't do there. You know, you can't be vulgar, you can't be physical, etc. But basically, people say peer pressure all the time, and peer pressure, just when you use the words peer pressure, it sounds negative. And so, but peer pressure, so I call it peer influence. It's powerful. Kids, a senior talking to a freshman is far more powerful than anything a principal could say. You know, kids look up to them. And so we really set that, and then we turn the seniors out. And then we constantly in the building try to find privileges that seniors get that the other classmen don't get. So I always want the seniors to be seen that they have the leadership in the building, that they have the support of administration to be able to address concerns. And so anyways, to kind of fast forward and skip over some things, did it impact the freshman behaviors and disciplines were better? 100%. It was so much better. In fact, the most common area where we might have a freshman misbehave is in a freshman classroom, like freshman English, where the seniors aren't. So that kind of tells me that it works outside of the room. And then 2 was I did not anticipate how the culture in the building was going to lean on seniors throughout the school year. Seniors are the ones that come with the ideas from student council to do this, to do that. Seniors are the ones that come, they want to do something different at a student section, those things. And of course, the behaviors of the seniors has been outstanding. I don't have a lot of negative behaviors from the seniors. And it just, I can't give it justice on this podcast to tell you that the change that has made, I think, in our culture, in our building, and then getting teachers to buy in. And teachers are the ones that come to me often with ideas on how to maybe set the seniors up, give them a privilege or put them in a position. And so like in our sports teams, it just naturally lent that the seniors on those sports teams were the leaders on those sports teams. The activities, the clubs, the student council, all of those different groups, senior leadership, then, I mean, it's like cherished, and sophomores and juniors know it, and they look up to it, and they know they're going to be those people someday. And so I just occasionally remind freshmen that you're not ready. You just haven't earned those privileges. You will in 3 years. You're going to be the leaders in our building in 3 years. You've got 3 years to learn it, but this is where you're at now. And so it's just, sometimes I'm just kind of that old school cowboy guy. I treat freshmen, and I really try to honor seniors and put them in positions of leadership. And it's been kind of almost a little mentorship program sometimes. That wasn't really my intent. It just kind of stumbled into it. But the intentionality of building bull elephants that work for you, for your expectations in your school, has been really powerful, I think, for Chadron High School for 50 years.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think that is awesome. Like for the last 3 years at Hastings High, I've been trying to build the culture up and get it to where it is. This is my 4th year at Hastings High, my 8th year as a principal. So going to my 4th year, the seniors were my freshmen. And it's really cool to see a lot of the seniors, a lot of the upperclassmen taking the role in the activity fair today with those freshmen, talking to them, getting them excited about Hastings High. Then they just tell them the truth. It's just like, hey, if you do what you're supposed to do when you get here, you'll be set up. But if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you won't be set up for your senior year. And so it was kind of neat to hear the seniors talk about that a little bit today with the freshmen. I would say a story last year when I did like the whole school assembly. Last year, a freshman made a comment during the whole school assembly. The students turned around. I don't know if they were seniors but they were upperclassmen. They turned around and said, "We don't do that here."
Right.
And that to me was like, okay, they're getting it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking this year, it's going to be even better.
Yeah.
Now I think that's kind of cool how you talk to the freshmen, have the seniors present, but then how you give the seniors like, hey, there's some guidelines with it. Don't be a jerk about it. But the thing is you're there to serve and help those kids because they're going to need that. And they need people to look up to. They need that support. So when they are struggling, they at least have someone they can connect with. And so with our school, we're trying to figure out how we can do that. But I really like that idea. I might steal it from you, Jerry.
Go. I told you the stuff I stole from you. So it surprises me how the seniors end up taking the freshmen under their wing. I mean, that's what it ends up building. I thought it was going to be more peer pressure, like old school peer pressure. I was afraid of locker room, seniors initiating freshmen. And it's not that. As long as you train it, and when you talk with just the seniors only, it's really turned into something special. And like I said, the rest of the student body, they've experienced it as freshmen too, and they know their time is coming. So if a freshman did speak up, like in that assembly, I think we would expect the seniors to be the ones to address it. When we sit in the auditorium, seniors always sit front and center. And they own this place. They will always be front and center in the auditorium. They sit together as a group, as a team. And that's day one. And so student section, seniors get the front row.
Yeah.
I will kick. I don't want
to do that here too. Yeah.
Yeah. And they love it when I see a freshman standing at the side I kick that freshman up to the top of the student section because they know it's seniors control it. Kind of a real light story that happens every now and then, but I will get I remember one time seniors came in, or the student body was coming in after lunch. We have open campus. They came in and I have 3 football boys, seniors, and they come up and say, "Mr. Mack, we need your office." I go, "Oh?" And he said, "We got some freshmen we need to talk to." And I think it was something to do with the team or something. I don't remember. And the first time that happened, I was like, I don't know if this is, I let them use my office. I was not in my office. And when they walked out, and again, you have to train them what they can and can't do. But when they walked out, they just looked at me and go, "It's taken care of." I don't know what was said, but that's the stuff that I think happens in the hall or, with teams. And again, I hope it doesn't sound negative as I share it, because it ends up being just something really positive and really cool. And just, again, the whole goal is, you as an administrator, are you creating your your bull elephants? And as importantly, are you training them so that they follow your expectations? So I've really enjoyed it. It's been so successful. Every year I look forward to it.
So, Jerry, I have questions now because I'm going to dig into that about training your seniors. So, you talked to them that day, it's the first day of school. What kind of follow-ups, what kind of things do you do to follow up with the seniors to make sure they're doing the things you ask them to do?
Well, you clearly got to point out quickly if they're doing something that isn't going to help them. And again, they don't want to be perceived as jerks. And so once you kind of point out, if you do this, which is like go flex your power in the school to a freshman on day one, it's not going to work. It works against you. You will not be respected. It just doesn't work that way. What works is basically what you're teaching them is they have to build a relationship. I remember years ago, Harry Wong was one of the presenters at educational conferences and had books about, talking to your kids outside of your classroom 3 times over something that had nothing to do with your class before you came in and tried to teach the kid. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with the seniors is just spending time with them to let them know why that is and what you're establishing. And once that relationship is established, then if you need to address something, it can be. So yeah, and it starts on day one, but like you said, you do have to reinforce it and just occasionally catching kids and you have senior meetings, at least I do throughout the year because they're doing preparations for graduation. We do senior seminar to talk scholarships and those things. And then every senior is going to take an English and a government class. And so you need to get those teachers on board and they help implement and support and establish that in those classrooms. And again, that maybe happened by accident, but those are the teachers, because they're senior teachers, they're sitting in the auditorium because that's where their seniors are on day one. So they have heard that from me year after year. And so then they go to their classrooms and then they end up supporting it. And then, like I said, just finding authentic ways to let them be seen as the leaders in the school and give them a voice in the school. And there's a lot of ways that can be done as well.
Yeah, I think, I was kind of curious, like, because I know with kids, we're going to have to reinforce things. We're going to have to follow up. We're going to have to, hey, that's probably not the best way to do that, buddy, just so they understand, like,
Well, and it's funny because the other seniors know that too. And it's not unusual. That one senior boy, he's going to go flex and he's going to really try to throw his voice out or address a freshman. And his buddies, the other seniors, they'll point it out too. And they're like, man, that's not going to work. It doesn't work that way. So it's more successful than I thought it would be. And something that I kind of hang my hat on. I'm kind of proud of that culture that's established where we can really honor and provide some seniority to the kids that have been in the building.
You bet, man. That's awesome. I really enjoy just kind of how you built that culture and, really training those elephant bulls, if I'm saying it right.
Bull elephants.
Those bull elephants. I said it backwards. There goes my dyslexia. So the bull elephants and how to get that culture piece within your school. I think that really is a neat way to do it. I haven't really heard it that way. And I think that's really awesome. And I think, when you talk about culture, I think you said an important piece, having the teachers and the staff buy into it because they're the ones that can help you really reinforce the culture you want. And that's kind of where we're at. I think the staff after 3 years really got a good sense of what we're trying to do and the buy-in in is much more. And the staff members that haven't really bought in, and, they might have just left on their own. But outside of the same time, we have great staff here at Hastings and they've done a nice job of helping those kids to reinforce the things that we do.
Yeah. And I've noticed culture with staff is different. It's not really about like, you do have some seniority, but it's not really bull elephants. It doesn't work the same with staff. With staff, it's about family. That's what's worked for me is like reminding every now and then, it might be once a year at a staff meeting because of whatever's going on. But I'll tell the teachers, it's like, we are family and families fight. We're brothers and sisters. Like it's not going to be unusual that we disagree and we fight with each other over a topic, but that fight never leaves this building. It doesn't go out downtown, and outside stuff definitely does not come inside of these walls. And because when a family, if you go after one of my family members, we're going to have other support coming in. We're going to have each other's backs. And being able to relay that part, that culture, that family culture over and over with staff has been probably what helps most for staff in the building. And, there's times where a staff member is going, it might be a health issue or a family issue or something. That's family. So if they're going through it, we're going through it. And I remind them, because they're our family, we help them, we support. And that's been really special too. And when we do the Friday potlucks, those are family meals. Those are family gatherings. That's a family table, And so the culture with the students is about seniority because of freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. And so it's bull elephants and expectations. And then with the staff, it's more about just family and taking care of each other and understanding it's okay if we disagree once in a while. We're still family.
Yeah, no, I think that's right on with your staff. I talk about having a community of people that work together. We talk about being a team. And so I really lean into the team concept with my coaching background. And like you said, just like family, you're gonna have little scuffles with your teammates. But guess what? At the end of the day, we're adults.
Yep.
We're here to do a job and we're here to help kids learn. And there's a lot of ways to do that. But at the same time, we need to work together because that's the only way we're going to be able to have success in our school is working together and striving for that same goal. And, keeping the expectation up here.
Sure.
Don't lower those expectations. Tell the kids, and I even tell my staff, this is my expectation for you is because I believe in you. I know you can hit that mark. And if I put the expectation down, I'm settling for mediocrity and I can't have that. We're going to go up here. And so we talk about that a little bit as well as staff meetings. Jerry, I want to get into the principal of the year in the state of Nebraska. How did you find out?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey there, amazing educational leaders. If you're finding value in this podcast, learning new insights, getting inspired, or just nodding along thinking, yep, I needed that, then why keep it to yourself? Share this podcast with a colleague, a fellow school leader, or a teacher that is inspiring into leadership. Send them a link, post about it, or just casually drop, hey, you need this in your life the next time you see them. Let's grow this community of game-changing educators together because great leadership isn't a solo act, it's a movement. Now, back to the show.
Nebraska, we've got to do a better job. Nebraska, we have to do a better job. So I go to the national conference where the 50 high school principals and some states have a middle school principal also, and they were joined together. And I'm listening to their stories about all these big events and the unveiling and the surprise announcement of being named principal of the year. I think it was in October, I got a phone call as I'm leaving the local Walmart. I'm in my pickup driving, and they said, don't tell anyone unless you want to maybe tell your spouse. We will announce it in December at the state principals conference. So you spend 2.5, 3 months walking around the building. No one knows. Somebody had notified the superintendent, but she must have got the same story so nobody knew anything until December. And you go down to the state principals conference and you give a little speech and get with a plaque. An absolute honor. It didn't diminish the honor and the humbleness and the shock that it comes, even though it's through a phone call that way. But it's one where, and we were at that advocacy conference together, and that has been the repeated message that I've heard since is we need to get over being humble, and we need to take our opportunities that we get as administrators to advocate for the profession. And I'm trying to do a better job with that since being named the principal of the year, and then having communications with the other principals of the year and understand they're just as humble and they're just as simple as you are. We don't see anything. I mean, I see special things in our school, but everyone thinks they're in the best school. You know what I mean? And so anyways, I'm just trying to get comfortable enough to know that I'm in a part of my career that I think I do need to give back and be an advocate for the profession. And I want to take that on. And so that's probably what's changed since then.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think it's awesome that you have that opportunity to maybe some doors open through this opportunity. Do you have any like doors that have opened since being named the principal of the year?
The network has expanded, and then through NASSP, and it was available all along, but now I'm more aware of it, and I'm more aware of the services, and I joined the Rural Principals Network, and so we had a Zoom today. It only happens about quarterly or every couple of months, where you get together and you listen. The principal from Ketchikan, Alaska, was on with the middle school principal in Texas. He's the middle school principal of the year for his state, and then just other administrators from states. Or in fact, there wasn't really any states on there regionally today. And then just being able to hear how much more you have in common. So the network since then has really expanded for me. And that's probably been the biggest thing. And I'm not going to lie, you probably get a little more confidence that maybe you do have something to offer. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
maybe we do something that's okay here. That's where, like my bull elephant story. I haven't told other administrators that, but I just feel like if we're not sharing with each other so that you can steal what works, we're not rivals. We can play each other on a Friday night and try to win the football game, but we're in this for kids, and
Yep.
that has nothing to do with being a rival. And the job, it can be isolating, and you can make it a lot more isolating, or we can have these conversations like you and I are doing. And I stole an idea from you already this week with my staff meeting, and somebody out there listening might steal the bull elephant idea, or maybe it's some other idea. We just need to accept that we're all in this for the same reason, to support kids and serve the kids in our communities. So I think I'm a little more comfortable to share some of those things.
I think the networking piece is huge. I really didn't network a lot when I was a young, I'd say young, 8 years ago, but when I was a new principal, I didn't do a lot of networking. I was so worried about leaving my building, something's going to happen. But I have systems in place now to where I know my building's going to be fine. I need to have these opportunities to go visit with other principals. I'm in the EMC conference, so we have principal meetings with our conference in the East Midland Conference and Lincoln about once a quarter, or more like twice, 3 times a year. There's one time I can't go because we host a state softball tournament here in Hastings. It's great to get to connect with those people. But then when you're at admin days, great to connect with those people. When you go to the NASSP National Conference, you get to learn from a lot of people from a lot of areas. And you go, you know what? We're doing some really good things here, like they're doing over there. We're doing okay. Like we're doing some of the same stuff.
Right.
And it, like you said, it builds that confidence and goes, and that's what this podcast is about, is sharing stories of other principals to other principals out there that can maybe get something out of that and maybe take it and go, maybe if it worked for Jerry and Shatter, maybe it worked for me wherever I'm at. And so that's the big push for this podcast, is to give people other people's ideas and to help each other grow and build that network of leadership to make ourselves better. Because like you said, you're in Shatter and I'm in Hastings, and we're connecting, and we're starting to run across each other, not on purpose. It just happens.
Right.
And I think that's really neat. I'll be honest. I went to the Nebraska Educational Advocacy Workshop because I was mad. And I was mad at the state for passing the FAFSA bill to where every senior has to fill out a FAFSA, all right? Or they have to sign a waiver, or Mr. Linden has to sign the dang waiver.
Yep.
Well, I have pretty good sized senior classes. I had to sit down and fill out 72 waivers because I couldn't get families to do it. I knew that was going to happen. So you know what? I don't want another stupid law like that to pass. So what do I saw that email. I'm going to go to that. I'm going to learn about it because I need to be better at what's going on in my state. And I need to speak up and tell our story, because if we do that enough and we get enough of us rounded up to do that, maybe they'll think twice before they start putting stuff on the public school education system. And am I making our jobs even harder than it needs to be? We already have a tough job. You guys need to knock your crap off sometimes. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. So I want to see here why you went to the workshop and what got you involved with the advocacy workshop that the Nebraska Council School Administrators put on.
Very similar, actually. And I'll tell you the one that got me. But part of it is just the confusion of how it works. Now, number one, I am 7.5 hour car drive away from the state capitol where this stuff takes place. And so we rely on other sources to get information. And NCSA has been an organization that does a phenomenal job keeping administrators up to date on these legislative changes. And and one of them, I guess the one that got under my skin that I had emailed the state senator on was school libraries. Like I get like, okay, if you want to catalog everything that's in the library so parents know what's in the library, I get it. It's going to be more work, but I get it. But then there was discussion about that parents would be notified when a child has checked out a book. And again, there's probably nothing wrong with that, but it's just so, in my mind, it was so ridiculous that this kid can have a smartphone that their parents pay for that has access to the internet, that they can view and consume anything they want. But now schools have to track and notify parents of what book was in a library, school library, by the way. It isn't like we have a porn section over in the corner. It's a school library. The school purchased materials.
Wait a minute. You don't have that curtain in the back?
Right. And it just
remember those old days? Yeah.
Video stores.
Yeah.
It made no sense to me. It's like, and we're, we have one-to-one devices. We hand out devices starting in 7th grade. And again, we can't monitor everything that kid is viewing on a Chromebook, but yet parents need to know the school library books that they don't trust. And I know parents have ways of, some probably do monitor some use, but you can't control the Wi-Fi network your kid is on when they have a device or a phone. And anyways, it just felt like that kind of stuff, that was one of them that's like, it just feels like extra work. And the FAFSA one was another prime example. It's just extra work for people that I don't know that it completely accomplishes what I think they were hoping to anyway. But so anyways, for me, going to that advocacy conference, I wanted to learn the process of where I need to understand the language to know where in the process a bill is before it becomes a bill. That was probably one of the main things. Like, am I emailing my senator at the right time? Or is my senator even involved in that? Or is my senator even voted on that yet? And so I wanted to know the timeline of what it looked like for a bill going through, and just to learn more about that. And then, as you know, they allowed us to go through mock hearings. So we got to practice testifying at a hearing so we could be a proponent or an opponent for a legislative bill. So again, the hope is that we can be advocates. We are, and like they say, NCSA is so good about saying, we're the ones doing the job. We're the ones that understand school and know school. Probably, we need to find a way to get our voice out to these state senators and perhaps our public to let them know what is really happening in schools and what it looks like. So
yeah,
that's all part of it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's that. I agree right there. I mean, I totally forgot about that library until you brought it up. Like, to me, this is ridiculous, right? Like you said, kids have access to a lot of things on their phone that parents don't regulate, but yet the state wants to regulate what you get out of the library. And the thing is our libraries, like, for us, you want to know what's in our library, we have it out there. You can look through it. We don't care.
Right.
We don't really worry about what's in our library. But there are some people, you got this book's been in there for 30 years and you're having a big deal about it now. It's like, just because you looked at it now, you're like, this isn't new. But so, like, I think that's really great. We kind of have that same, story. We got fed up with stuff. We're like, you know what? I got to do something about that. And I know one of the things I have done since the advocacy workshop is I've reached out to my state senator. Now, I kind of knew the state senator before he became a state senator. So I had that in the bag. Dan Lewowski here at Adams County was a wrestling coach for a long time out at Adams Central. as, you know, and I was a wrestling coach. So I ran into him a few times that way, but also as an official. So I ran into him on that end. And so I've kind of known him, great guy. But at the same time, I'm just like, hey, Dan, if there's any time you want to come to Hastings High, come on over. I will show you what we're about. I want you to show us what we're doing, because I know he knows the Adams Central District real well because he was a part of that. He was a teacher and coach. But come over to Hastings High. I will show you what's up.
Yep.
You know, if you have any questions about anything that's coming up, because he's actually on the education committee.
Yeah.
There you go. So I'm like, oh, I knew that because I've talked to him. And I'm like going, if there's anything educationally that's coming up and you would like some insights, let me know. I'll give it to you. I'll help you with that. I want to be more of a proponent. And so have you done anything like that since that? Because they kind of talked to us about trying to build that relationship with your local senator. So what are some things maybe you've done in the same capacity?
And you know this, but our audience might not. My wife is also a principal. She's the elementary principal here in Chatham. She has kindergarten, first grade, second. She actually has the preschool as well. And so we were both at that advocacy conference. And so while we were there, we went across the street to the state capitol, and we found the office and got to visit with the legislative aide for our state senator. They weren't in session, so our senator wasn't there. And we established a relationship there, left notes there in the office, and then came back and then was able to hear from our state senator and just said, hey, I'm here. This is a high performing school. If you ever run into something where you want to know what is it that's happening in schools, just reach out to us. And then this summer doing your local county fair, your little, for us in Chatham is Fur Trade Days. So we have a parade and she's there.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife sought her out and said, hey, I know we kind of exchanged emails since that advocacy conference. I just wanted to introduce myself in person. My husband and I, because I was doing school tours at the time for alumni. And so she just said, my husband and I are here if you ever want to know what's going on. Anyways, just made a personal contact that day as well. And so, and we got some feedback, or it sounded like our senator was interested in having connections in education, even though she's not on the education committee. And so I just felt like we've at least established ourselves as a connection. I clearly feel more confident to reach out during the next session if there's something that I think we need to advocate for or against.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, I think this is a great time just to let people know your state legislation is going to bring in laws that you're going to have to abide by. And so before it becomes a law, building like we do with our kids and our families, we need to start building those relationships with those state senators or legislators that create those laws that are going to affect our job.
Yeah.
If we don't do that, they're not going to be able to have a connection with us when they're trying to pass something. We can go, hey, this is what's good about it. This is maybe not so what's good about it. So let's talk about it. I think we as principals have to do a better job of doing that, because we're the ones doing the work. We're doing the grind. We're the ones in the building. We see the families. We know this is going to be a great idea, or this is something that, why are you doing this? This isn't that, this isn't everything that you think it's going to be, because all you're doing is doing extra work for us. And we're already in this shortage, and you're going to make it worse by doing some of this stuff. So I think building that relationship, we have to get better in our field to do it. I think that's awesome that you've done that. Be intentional, like we do with our kids and our staff. Yeah. We got to do that on that side. And I think that's leveling up our profession, right? And I think that's where we really got to get to. And it doesn't matter if you're in Nebraska or if you're in Kansas or in California, wherever you're at, you need to have relationships with those people and help them understand how schools are working so they can make better decisions for schools.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
All right, educational leaders. You know how we tell our students feedback makes us better? Well, same goes for this podcast. If you've been getting value from this podcast, please take 60 seconds to leave a quick 5-star review. This review isn't just a pat on the back, although I appreciate it. It helps other leaders find the show, join the conversation, and grow right along with us. More reviews equal more reach equal a stronger community of game-changing educators. So hit that review button, drop a few words, and let's keep making educational leadership better together. Now, back to the show.
Yep. Yeah. And my goal is that, my senator knows my name when I contact, if I reach out or email that, I just want him to know it's a real person with a real job in this real field. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. It doesn't matter what state you're in. I think administrators need to make that connection and be there to advocate for the profession and for your kids.
You bet. Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. We're advocating for our profession, but we're also advocating for our staff, our
Absolutely.
kids, and our whole system. And I think in Nebraska, we have great public education.
Yes.
We're not broke. We're not broken like other states are with their state public ed schools. I think we are one of the best out there when it comes to just how we do it and kind of having the unicameral in the state, but also having, Nebraska Department of Education is a person that is not elected. They're not appointed by a governor. They're actually someone has to interview for the job and they have to get selected by a board. And the board controls the commissioner of the Nebraska and they work with the governor, but at the same time, they're not appointed by that person. That's what helps us not having to change things every 4 years because it's whatever governor is in power at the time. So, so I think we have a benefit to that, but at the same time, you have to get active in those things to help the profession, help your kids and help your staff. And I think right on there. Now, Jerry, we've kind of talked a lot of things. I'm really enjoying this conversation, man. This has been a lot of fun. Jerry, what's next for you? What's coming up on the horizon? What's going on in Jerry's world when it comes in the future at Shattern, and what you got? Anything cooking up there?
Yeah, professionally, it's trying to find avenues to give back. It's trying to find avenues because the truth is, I don't know the average length of a tenure of an administrator or a principal, but a lot of principals don't make it 10 years. They don't go. It seemed like when we were kids, the principals had all been the principal for 30 years. I don't know that happens a lot anymore. And so, as we get 10 years of experience, 15 years of experience, we have the experience where, you're a veteran and you need to find ways to somehow have an impact or a cultural impact outside of the school walls. And I think that's where I'm at in my career. I don't know how many more years I'll go in a principal position just because retirement, what is it? What do they say? Convicts and educators are the two that talk about how many years you have.
I got 12.
Right. So, but I got 3. So, but it's like, what can I do? Number one, for our community, for Shattern Public Schools, what can I do for Shattern to really establish it and to reach out? Because I'll be honest with you, we just have a lot of ridiculous successes academically. But number two, what can I do for the profession and reach out beyond and be able to share something and leave something behind that might help someone else? So professionally, I think it's just trying to find those avenues of where do I have some value to network a little more. What, Jeff, you know our state. I'm in the northwest corner of the state of Nebraska. We're a little over 100 miles from the nearest population center where there's 10,000 people. And so by federal definitions, that's the frontier. And so for us, I think that's always been, or for me anyway, it's like, well, I'm not going to get involved with Lincoln because it's a 7-hour drive. It's just too far. And I'm trying to just get over that. Like it doesn't matter the distance or the time. It's still worth reaching out and in the world of technology and Zoom, since COVID now, most things are on Zoom and you can be a part of. So I just want to find out where I can help out, where I can learn more and share more.
If you guys don't know, Shattern's beautiful, man. They got Fort Robinson State Park up there. They're not very far from the Black Hills. I mean, it's gorgeous up there. I kind of get jealous because I know the area enough to know that it's really, really neat little area. I don't know. You guys are about 5,000-6,000, I think, as a community. You have a Division II college there as well. And so Chadron's got a lot of cool things out there. My wife's originally from Baird, Nebraska. So I go out to the Panhandle. I've been out there, visiting family and kind of know what it is, what it's like out there. And I will tell people, if you get a chance to go up there and vacation or, go to the state park up at Fort Robinson, it's fantastic. I would recommend it. And when I coached at Hershey, we go to Chadron for the football clinic every year. We take our kids and do the football camp. And at the end of every football camp, we go up the Chadron hill and we get a picture and do all those things. So, I mean, I have a lot of great memories being in Chadron and doing those things. I even remember when Danny Woodhead was, playing football out there. I followed his career because I actually knew him when he was a high schooler. My best friend lived in North Platte. He was one of the youth counselors at the youth group in church, and Danny was a part of that church family. So I got to know him that way. So I kind of followed his career. But yeah, he was phenomenal running back out at Chadron State there. So there's a lot of. One of my wrestling coaches, a former Chadron State wrestler, and then the guy that took over the wrestling program at Twin River was a 2-time national champion from Chadron State. And so I got a lot of people I've ran into about, just Chadron. So I want let people know, like, it's a really great place out there. And
there's not a lot of people know that Nebraska has a forest. So the Nebraska National Forest, it actually takes up almost 40% of our school district lands is Nebraska National Forest, or the what we call the Nebraska Game and Parks, which is all government land. And, people talk about, well, Nebraska's just cornfields. Not in this part of the state.
No, I call that God country up there.
Yeah, we're the pretty Black Hills, Mount Rushmore, and all that. So,
yeah, no, that's pretty great up there. Now, Jerry, I kind of want to ask you a question, because there might be people listening to this podcast that are thinking about that step into leadership. Hey, I'm thinking about becoming a principal. Maybe it's assistant principal, maybe it's a head principal. What advice would you give to an aspiring educator out there that wants to step into this role?
A couple of things come to mind. One is to get connected, to understand that, networking is just what principals do. We reach out to each other. We call the principal down the road. Like I said, we can play against each other, cheer against each other on a Friday night, but on Monday morning, we're calling each other to, get ideas, and just to understand that's part of the role of being a principal, is networking and leaning. Like, I just want to know policy. Like, I called you last spring over one, and I learned about staff and a little policy you guys use with a date and anyways, that's where we get ideas, is leaning on each other. And it's not an ego job that way. It's about kids. It's not about us. And so that comes to mind. But the more important thing I would say for advice was, I really struggled to take the position. I knew I enjoyed coaching. I knew I enjoyed teaching. And I knew it would be a time commitment. But I really struggled because I just wanted to know, can you really make an impact on a school as a principal? And so what I'm going to say here is, I think the principal is the number one factor that influences the culture in a building, the culture with the staff, the culture with the students. I'm not saying that to take credit. I'm saying that because a principal has to consistently get a message out there. A principal has to consistently and revisit that message quite often to establish a culture. And so if you're considering becoming a principal or taking an administrative role, I would tell you that it is so important. I mean, you're working with law enforcement to help kids. You're working with DHHS to support families. You're working with different entities to find ways to buy meals for kids. And all these things we do, it's so important. But you get to have an impact on hundreds of kids versus what I could do in a classroom, or the 50 kids or 20 kids I could have the impact on as a coach. It's at a different level perhaps, but it is a culture that a principal really does have their thumb on that can really influence for an entire school. And so it's an important position, and just to reach out and talk to each other to help yourself through the vastness of the job that we deal with. And that's why we have each other that we can lean on and those support systems.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, you hit all the things right there. If you're going to be, if you're aspiring principal, man, take what he just said to heart, because you can have an impact. Now, your impact, you want it to be positive, but if you want to have a negative impact, you can too on that. You don't want to do that. Trust me, you'll be out of a job pretty quick when it comes to that. You don't want to be that authoritarian leader, but we're talking about that person that's going to come in, they're going to support their staff, they're going to support their students, but they're leading the way. They're showing people, you know what, this is where we're going to go. You have to be able to paint the vision.
Right.
You got to be able to paint the vision, get people behind it. That's part of that job too, when you are becoming a principal, is knowing how to do that. And it takes time. You're not going to be perfect at it.
Right.
And when people know you're a brand new principal, they give you grace. They understand that you're learning and you're trying to figure it out. There's not a lot of things out there that get you prepared like the real thing. But I'm hoping this podcast helps a little bit. So when it comes down to it, so, and those things like that. So, Jerry, if people wanted to reach out and connect with you about the work that you're doing there in Chadron, how could they do that?
The easiest thing for me is just to have you contact the school, Chadron High School in Chadron, Nebraska. It's something that can certainly be Googled. Maybe there's some footnotes in here so you can see how Chadron is spelled, because it starts C-H-A. And then I am on Twitter, but I'll be honest with you, I live through the school accounts more. So the @Chadron HS at Chadron High School, we're very active on social media. Those are my accounts. I have some personal Instagram and Twitter accounts that I'm a stalker, looking at news and checking out what the Huskers are doing, But for the most part, it's through the school account. So I would just say reach out to the school and give a call.
Yeah, I'll put that in the show. So if you guys want to get a hold of them, it's going to be in the show notes. I mean, wherever you guys listen to the podcast, because it could be anywhere, because I have it on all major platforms. All right, Jerry, it's been a great conversation. But before we go, you said Husker football.
Ooh.
You said Husker football. I'm a huge Husker fan. I want to know, will Coach Rule get it done this year? Will we be 8, 9, 10 wins? I don't know. I hear a lot of positive. I mean, you go listen to Coach Eckler's press conference yesterday. Gets you fired up, man. Gets you fired up. So I want to know what Jerry thinks about Husker football in 2025.
You brought up Coach Eckler. He used a line about, I think it was about kick return. He goes, remember the movie Days of Thunder, and there's all the smoke and the car wreck, and you just got to go through it. You just got to go through the smoke. And I'm thinking, Husker football, you need to just go through the smoke. We need to get it done. So if you're from out of state, you don't understand the importance of this conversation Jeff and I are having right now, but we call it drinking the Kool-Aid every year. And I tell you what, I'm so excited at, I think Coach Rule, just how grounded he is, the positive messaging he does. The school administrators, we could just steal from that. He's so consistent with both the messaging that he does and how he promotes his players and his program. Gosh, if they get 10 wins, I tell myself I would just be absolutely thrilled, and I will be upset if we don't get 11. But
that's right. We're always one. Hey, we can go 10 wins and be like, man, this is a great year, but man, we should have won that other one.
Yeah,
that's
don't be mad if we don't get 11.
Like, okay, for me, I'm going cautiously optimistic. I think they're going to have a great season, but for me, I'm going, just get the 7, please. Just get the 7.
Oh, I know.
Get the 7. Anything past 7, I'll be happy with. But the same, if they start winning 8, 9, I'm going to be like you. Oh, we should have done this instead. But yeah, I'm excited about it. Another thing Coach Eckler was saying was, what was it? He was talking about, is about leadership, right? Leading by example. And I want to kind of make this point. And I thought it was really interesting. It's like leading by example is like a myth. It's one of those things. We don't lead by example. We just do it. We just lead. We don't just, lead by example. We just do the job, and everything that we do day by day, the little things we do, the paying attention to detail, those things, is where the leadership really goes. And so understanding that your day by day, your little things that you do every day build to those big successes. Now, some people may disagree with the, leading by example. I feel like modeling is a great way to lead at times,
Absolutely.
but at the same time, I just thought it was a really interesting perspective from Coach Eckler when it came down to it, because I always talk about, what are you going to get better at today, teachers?
Yeah.
What are you going to get better today at, students? You find something to get better at, and I'm going to figure out, what am I going to get better at today? And so I thought that was a really interesting quote from yesterday.
And a quick example, I was thinking like, man, there's mud on the floor, on the tile, or a water spill. You just grab a mop, and then I'm out there mopping, and then, I have a young teacher goes, oh, servant leadership. I'm not trying to lead by example. I'm doing exactly what you just said. You're just doing it, and you are leading. You are a modeling. You're modeling, but I didn't think I was being intentional. It's just that spreads. Stepping in and doing what needs to be done is all of a sudden it's leadership, and I was like, it just needed done.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I have very similar experiences. Like, there could be a spill on the floor, some kid dropped their water bottle and it's everywhere. I'm in a big school. I have 1,000 students. I have 119 staff, 120. I just hired my last one. So I have 120. I just hired my last para. I have all my staff filled for the year. I'm excited.
Oh.
All right. Nonetheless, but I just go grab a mop and did it. Guys, I worked at McDonald's. That was my first job. I know how to mop a dang floor. So there's just things that you do that you just do. You just do it. It's just part of and then you know what? Those people, those custodial staff, when they see you do that, they're like, whoa, where did this guy come from?
Yeah.
We're not used to the principal doing those things, but you know what? That's what we do. We want to make things, I will tell you this morning, Jerry, I got a little bit mad because our grounds people weren't getting things taken care of. So this morning at 5:30, I went to the school and did some weed whacking and blowing. I'm not waiting around for them. I want this to look good. I don't want our students to come in and see these. I don't want our students to see this part of our building looking trashy. And so I get upset when my building doesn't look good. And we have to take care of what we have, because I have an old building, but at the same time, we want our kids to be proud of where they go. And we want, we don't take care of the things we have, they're not going to take care of them. So we could go on forever on this one, Jerry. But hey, I really appreciate the conversation. All else fails, go Big Red coming up this year. Jerry, I wish you and the Shattering Cardinals well this year. You're doing great things out there, and I'm excited about our connection and forging this relationship. And, I'm learning from you, and it's humbling that you learn from me as well. And I just think this is going to be a fun relationship as we build it out over the years. So Jerry, I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you being on the podcast today, man.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me. It's a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed listening to episodes.
What a conversation with Mr. Jerry Mack. Love learning about his journey in educational leadership, his insights on how to build up a school culture, and the advice he gives to aspiring educational leaders everywhere. If this episode resonates with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And until next time, be curious and 1% better. Thank you for sticking around to the very end of this episode. I hope this podcast brings value to you as an educational leader. I would invite you to share this podcast with other educational leaders, or maybe that inspiring teacher who would like to be an educational leader someday. I would also invite you to subscribe and to follow this podcast so you can get the most recent updated episodes when they drop. I would also love it if you leave a review and rate this podcast 5 stars, because that would make this podcast more discoverable to other educators like yourself. You can also follow me on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, Threads, and Substack. All you need to do is look for Principal J.O., and boom, there I am. This is where we can continue the conversations from the episodes that you have enjoyed. I am so thankful for you guys for listening. Until next time, always be 1% better.